should read topic number 3 is the Islamization doesn't seem to have taken place that peaceful after all. So this came with a link. Let's check it out. I want to tell you too, while we were talking about the small hats there, suddenly, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but suddenly my computer started to drag during that conversation. I don't know why. Let me share a screen with you guys. Shout out to Gassimo too, by the way. This takes us to a video with I'm sure with a familiar voice. Let's check it out.
These are the caves where the elderly and the children were hidden when, how should I call it, when Islam arrived. So it wasn't that peaceful. Lots of caves here. A lot of caves. So here, our people used to hide from the Islamization. And obviously, it did not prevail. Anyway. Of Rotterdam, but in real life, well, it reminds me of the zoo in Rotterdam. But yeah, reality is different of what the people want to believe nowadays. Still in the caves, but I'm told here this black powder was an alternative to gunpowder. So they used it in their muskets to defend themselves in this sun. That's our story. Our story never told, right? And I thought the big one over there is apart, but it's all interconnected. The caves are all interconnected inside, and they advised me not to go inside because of, well, snakes and such. So I'm gonna be over here.
Shout out to Jose there, that's JB, who's often on the panel here. Make sure to like that video. You can check it out on his channel, Jose J Bronze, Senegal, Kedugu region 06, the cave. You can check it out yourself. I think Tanzan had a comment on that video as well. I guess that prompt came up because if I'm remembering correctly, I think JB might have had the argument in the past that Islam was not a warful type. It wasn't a violent conquest in Africa. I think that was a position he took in the past, and maybe this is a follow up to that, which is Shooter Breeze topic number 3. That the Islamization doesn't seem to have taken place that peaceful after all. So I think that's what he's referring to, and he's showing us the caves in Senegal, where people had to hide from the Muslim or Islamic invasion. Gas says he's not back; he's just in the shadows. Well, I appreciate you being in the shadows around here, but Gas, I gotta tell you too, a black 125th Street scholar, fresh out of jail, didn't say that in that video. The white boy Jew who said that. So you gotta take it up with the white boy Jew who said that. With that said, let me go to Bakari first. Bakari, what say you to this idea, this proof, I guess, that Islam was an invader in Africa? Or maybe Bakari stepped away. You're muted if you're talking. All right. Buana, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I know I would have known this prior to ever even. I guess that this argument was really for the person who said that Islam came to Africa peacefully. I mean, for someone to say that, I would just say that they need to do a little bit more research and find out what was going on. But what I would also say is, there has been advancements, there has been benefits to the so-called modern world and to the old world with the spread of Islam. So there's good and there's bad. If I'm being 100% fair, with the Moors going up to Spain, and in terms of education, in terms of just a myriad of different things, in innovation and inventions that the Islamic world has helped to really push forward. I would have known but I would have known that Islam wasn't brought to Africa or really anywhere in the world peacefully. They don't believe in turning the other cheek. Neither do the Christians, by the way. Neither do the Christians, even though that there's this idea out there that Islam is not a peaceful religion. Well, you think Christianity is a peaceful religion? You need to check out what the Christians do in Africa before you point the finger at the Islamists. But for me, I am more, if Africa was to have any religion inside of it, Africa has mountains of spirituality. So for them to really go towards any kind of Islamic faith, where they have so much spirituality that exists within that continent, it to me is a little bit of ridiculousness. But if I'm speaking with the historical hat on, I would say that yes, Islam, when it came to Africa and different parts of the world, it was horrible. But there has been benefits with Islam coming into different territories in Africa and in Europe as well. So, but I'll stop there. I don't really have much to say on this particular farm.
I appreciate that, Buana. I think Bakari's back. Bakari, what say you?
What's up? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I'm going to pick my son up for work. It might go out again. But anyway, right? Islam came in finally, even when we mentioned the Moors, right? Even when we mentioned the Moors, if it was black people, if it was African people that went to Spain and do it, why aren't they called Africans, and why aren't they mentioned about what region they're from or what tribe they're from? Even in that sense, they have to accept what somebody else calls them because they was rocking with somebody else. You understand what I'm saying? Even in that sense, they were dominated. And when we go to war for Islam, right? It's just like anything else. I did a podcast about this about a year or two ago, but I think I might have to do another one. It's called Slavery and the Military. People always made their slaves fight for them, made the slaves get on the front line because they make the slave feel you're going to get something. When you listen to people here talk, one of the biggest reasons a lot of black people say this is our country too. I would never say that. Because we fought in every war. Because we don't have an understanding of what people do to you, right? once you have been enslaved and you're fighting for a slave owner, hoping that that slave owner give you some rights. But I'm gonna say this, Bwana, I like what you did. See, I saw when you switched to Christianity, right? I'm not gonna talk about the Christians. They beat up enough. But when it comes to Islam, we have to include the Christians. But Islam ain't. But when you talk about Islam, you include the Christians. But when we talk about Christians, we only talk bad about Christians. Look,
All right,
I ain't gonna talk.
Nah, the hell.
I ain't gonna,
By the way, bring Keyway on though. By the way, bring him on. But
I'm going to get it now. But my point is, right? Look, I ain't gonna say nothing about. I ain't gonna talk negative because I can't. If I can't talk negative about nobody, about the small heads on here, I'm gonna say Arab tonight. So I'm not gonna say the derogatory term for the Arabs. But my thing is, of course, this came in violently. And me personally, I don't give a damn about the Arabs or their religion. But I am not mad at anyone that have that religion. If they have that religion and that religion give them balance in their life and make them a good person and help them understand what and help them see what we need as a people, I will stand with that black person. And on that note, I hear them.
I appreciate that, Bakari. In the chat, my boy Kyle Hezekiah, our boy Kyle Hezekiah says Islam isn't peaceful in Africa now, in the present day. So to say it was initially so is insane. Yeah, I think I hope I'm not misrepresenting the brother Jose, but I think that's what Jose argued on Shoot the Breeze some time ago. And I think this is a follow-up to that. Provide triggers for evolution says, I think this is for Bwana. Can you expand on the benefits of Islam in Africa? I'll get to you, Bwana, in 1 second. Sister Raw is here. She says, greetings to all here on the panel and in the yard. And Trigger Happy 262 says, yeah, the argument typically is that Islam came into West Africa because of trade and that it was pacifist. But Bwana, do you want to expand for provide?
Yeah. Maybe I have my little biases because when I was going through the rounds in terms of the whole spirituality research, I had groundings with my Islamic brother. So maybe I have little biases. So I am sorry, brother Bakari. I ain't gonna bang on the Christians no more. I'm gonna leave. I told you I'd leave them alone. But in terms of how is Islam beneficial, what I would say to that is in terms of schools, the madrasas that was developed in terms of reading and writing, in terms of you could say law, in terms of organization. There is a great book on it. Called not Ivan Van Sertima in Spain. There's another book. Can't remember right now. It escapes me, But I'll like I come back to things. I'll come back to that question and I'll put it in the comment section. I can't think of the book right now.
Yeah, I think you're talking about that Timbuktu book, but I can't remember the full title right now. If there's no other last comments here. Let's go to the next topic. Let me drop the link for those of you who are interested or willing to hop on the panel tonight, especially seeing that we're a bit short-handed tonight. It'll be nice for you guys to hop on. But it's also nice if you guys drop some comments in the chat. That allows us to expand on the conversation. Bakari, you want to add something?
Y'all can hear me?
Yeah.
Y'all hear me now?
You're kind of in the matrix a little bit, but yeah.
So what I want to say was about the schools, right? And that's what I hear a lot of people say. What Bwana just said, even with the schools, look what they made them study. They study Arab language. They had to study all of that. The schools truly was not there to benefit the African. The school was there to benefit them, and the African had to kneel, learn their language, and learn their customs, learn their cultures. And when I said something about Christianity, I don't give Christianity no pass. I'm just saying when people talk about that them, I don't give no Abrahamic religion, no Abrahamic religion a pass. But like I said, we got brothers and
Oh, look like Bakari fell off. I think that's an internet connection. So Provide Trigger says, appreciate Gas Sim Up's presence in the chat. His insightful comments were missed, as well as a sense of humor at times. Oh, yeah, I don't think I missed any of his comments in the chat today. But yeah, he's Gas is a good panelist. Gas is a very, very good panelist. I appreciate Gas Sim Up.
He'll be back. I ain't worried about gas. He'll be back. He being an old man right now or curmudgeon. I ain't worried about him. Listen, what I have to say to Brother Bakari is, remember, brother, there are the sciences, mathematics, all these kinds of things that the Islamic world at the time they were taught through Arabic. They only getting religious instruction now. They getting also scientific instruction and billing instruction and think whatever would have worked, in terms of industry in Africa. They also get that instruction, but they learning it through Arabic. In the same instance, we in the Western world speaking English language, but the way we learn about science, mathematics, biology, we learning it through English language. Now, of course, the English language, my lady says is an equivocal language. There's limitations to that language as well, and also there's biases because when they talk about black ball and it's been a black day, and they throw their little biases in that as well. But I would say what I usually say is you got to eat the meat and spit out the bones. So yes, I learned mathematics. Yes, I learned science through English language. But I know, and at least I developed my mind to discover that the English language also was written by who, and they also gonna put their own biases and influences in that. I developed my mind to a point to where I could displace that kind of information. And it's also to say that, of course, I would think that there were some people at that time who would have had the foresight to say, yeah, man, I learned in Arabic. I learned in science through Arabic. But, I'm an Arab. I'm a black man. Not many, but I'm sure there existed a whole swath of people who would have said, yes, I learned about science, biology, and all these things. However, I learned it through Arabic. But if this the way, this is where I have to learn it. This is the way I have to learn it. You know what I mean?
Bakari's in the chat. He says, Buana, that just means we should just accept our position because we need Arab to teach us science and mathematics. But the Shango bone with mathematics is older than the Arab. You know what, Buana?
I want to before you go, give 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Yes, you are absolutely right. I do not accept it. In fact, Dr. Obadele Kambon, this is one of his issues. I'm sure you know who he is.
Yeah.
He suggested to have how we understand technology right now. We understand it through English language. He said, no. We should teach these kinds of sophisticated, kind of complex industries within our own language and learning it through tweet, learning it through the different languages he would have learned in living on the continent and teaching himself. He said, well, we need to start there. So I think that linguistics is very important, but many of us ain't linguistically inclined, but I think you got to start somewhere. But this was his particular issue. He said, if we must learn these kinds of sciences and arts and industries and things like that, we should be able to figure out the way where we can learn it in our form and fashion in our languages. What does this mean in Tweet? What does this mean in Swahili? What does this mean? These kinds of terms that the Europeans would have put on these terms. We have our own terms and meanings for these particular things. But we have to go back all the way back. Start with the kids and learn linguistics first. Learn our own languages because we are in the West. Most of us don't even want to learn an African language. You know what I mean? People is fighting me of calling me Moana Hagaziki. But I think that I agree with you. I think that there should be a starting point. We should not just accept it. And I think that we need to first start with linguistics first before we can put that in form and fashion into science, technology, biology, etc., etc. So I do agree with that particular point.
Just to build a little bit quickly on that, one of the things we I think we misconstrue is like the Arabs came and gave us science, and that's really not the case. I think what the Arabs did do, and I gotta go back and look at this, but I think what the Arabs did do, the Arabs had to standardize measurements, and I think that's what they probably gave us, really, right, in their language. We had our scientists, as we all here should well know. We had our scientists, we had our science, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this a little later. But this idea that the Arab gave us science is something we gotta get away from. I do think they were the ones who came up with those concepts of units of measurement and stuff like that. But that's about it. Let's welcome in our brother Carl Hezekiah this week. Carl, how are you?
Hey, Coco, how you doing, man? I'm doing all
Good.
right. Fir- First of all, the Arab has my undying hatred because they created algebra. So I hate them for that. You know, that, that was always my worst class in school was algebra. But I also understand that the Arabs preserved a lot of classical literature from ancient Rome. So when the Romans, when Europe was going through their dark ages, much of the information that survived through the Arabs. So when Europe entered their so-called Renaissance period, they had to go to the Arab text because they had destroyed all their stuff. So the Arabs get a lot of credit for that, keeping the lights on, so to speak, keeping that knowledge that was supposedly a throw from Rome and Greece, which is always stolen from our ancestors already. So they just took our stuff and they preserved it and then got the credit for it. So that's one thing that people say. They brought a certain level of technology to Spain when the Moors conquered Spain. They introduced reading and writing and bathing, which I kind of feel like the Moors wasted their time because they don't like to bathe too much. So, but yeah, I could see where the Moors really wasted their time. But yeah, overall, I can see where. But I mean, they just kind of took over what we already had and just kind of put their own little spin on it. But compared to Europe at the time, they were much more advanced and they were much more tolerant. At least in some cases, especially with like Jews, for example, Jewish people could go to Muslim countries and have a level of safety. But when it came to Africa, it was terrible. Many times they would castrate the boys because they wanted eunuchs, and they would leave them there. If you didn't die, they would take you, but they would castrate the boys, take the women off for sexual slavery in the harems and in the Ottoman Empire. So it's a mess. I really hate the historical revisionism that we do many times when we talk about Arabs because they were just as brutal and violent as Christians, and to this day they still are. Many of these, you know, terrorist groups that are in Nigeria and in Mali or Boko Haram, they're Muslim uh, terrorist groups who are trying to enforce Sharia law in Africa. So yeah, I look at it all these as Dr. John Henry Cobb would call them monotheistic murder cults. They need to be expunged from our group psyche. Uh, that's my thoughts on it.
I appreciate that, Carl. Forecasters out there say, what's up, Amani? But Bakari will come back in about 30 minutes when he has good service. If there's no other last thoughts here, let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 tonight.